Week 8 of the high school football season is here, and some of the biggest games of the entire season are waiting for us this weekend. So let's get right into it. Welcome to the Red Zone Home Show. Welcome and thanks for watching us live at the Red Zone Home Show. Ryan Ross here with Darren Cooper from NorthJersey.com and Steve Falk from APP.com. Some official championship games to get to this week. Wrapping up what was a very exciting week in New Jersey high school football last week, Steve, and we'll start with you with the championship match for the Shore, I guess you can call it that. I think we all kind of expected.
Yeah, and in a situation where the last couple of weeks in the Shore have been kind of dark with lots of programs having to shut down due to COVID issues, we had 4 of them that had to shut down yesterday. Football fans in the Shore Conference, hopefully on Friday night, and that's hopefully because you never know these days, we'll finally get a chance to have a game to really look forward to. Donovan Catholic ranked number 2 in the Shore versus Wall ranked number 1 in the Shore. Both are ranked in the top 10 in our state rankings. These two teams have been on a collision course since probably week 2 of the season. They scrimmaged each other before the season started. Donovan Catholic got the better of Wall. Not that scrimmages are the be-all, end-all, but it's two teams with tremendous talent, power, athleticism, speed, and some of the best all-around football players in the Shore. Donovan Catholic's Jayon Farrar, a receiver who transferred from Long Branch, had a sensational all-around game last week with 3 touchdowns and an interception. But the Griffins have other talent with running back Jadir Laughlin. Quarterback Evan Menta has played very well. Premier Green's one of the best linebackers in the Shore. And with Wall, I mean, this is a team that's been together for 2 years now. I mean, running back, defensive back Casey Larkin, there's that name again, had a sensational all-around game at a 42-0 win over Mater Dei Prep. I mean, he was better in coverage last week against Mater Dei standout receiver Naran Bunton than he was running the ball. And that's saying a lot because he ran for 190 yards, including a sensational 93-yard run. Wall quarterback safety Logan Peters is a great all-around player. The Crimson Knights offensive line led by Graham Puharic is one of the best around. I'm really looking forward to this. Hopefully it comes off. But I think it should be the game of the year in the Shore and the game to end the Shore Conference season with everybody with a smile on their face.
Yep, and the winner of that makes the argument and absolutely should be the Shore Conference champion in this crazy year with no
unofficial. Let's make sure unofficial because nobody's crowning champion.
Unofficial. Officially unofficial.
That's us and the fans that can crown that.
Exactly, and we'll get more into that later as well. But Darren, up north as well, 2 big results, a little bit, I guess you could say, an upset in the granddaddy of them all up there.
Hey, you stole my line, Mr. Ross. That's my line.
I've learned from you these last few years.
Correct. It was Bergen Bosco 74. Guys, I'm walking out of the house Saturday morning, and my kids are like, I hope you have fun at the game today. And you couldn't have had more fun than I did at Bergen Bosco. 14-0 Bergen Catholic at half. The Ironmen depleted. Their quarterback has got a broken foot. They've got a tiny wide receiver. They're down 4. They come back. They tie the score 14-14. Bergen, boom, runs back the ensuing kickoff, 92 yards. Fabian France at 20-14. But back comes Bosco. They hit this long pass to Ethan Acevedo, and then they're set up at the 26-yard line with about 30 seconds left. They got 4 cracks, 6 seconds. Final pass of the game. Jake Robbins, he with the broken foot, connects with Ethan Acevedo, streaking into the end zone. Then the kicker. Steve, you'll like this one. Brand new football player, soccer player all his life. Fifth ever football game. In fact, after the game, he kept telling me, I made the winning field goal. And I'm like, you kind of made the winning extra point. But that's okay. We love you, Tom Sawicki. They will talk about you forever as Don Bosco beat Bergen Catholic 21-20. And my other big game, we'll talk a little bit more about these guys later. Beckton, my friend, still hasn't given up a point. They beat Park Ridge 21-0. Got 4 turnovers. Park Ridge, who was averaging over 40 points a game coming in, turned the ball over 4 times. The Wildcats are 5-0. They could be the first team up by us since 1938 to go a whole season without giving up a point, which would just be incredible.
That's got to be my favorite stat, I think, in the entire state. Not 1 point this entire season. That is unbelievable. And like Darren said, we'll get more into that game. We'll get more into Wall and Donovan Catholic later in the show when these two guys will make predictions. And before we get to that, though, we're going to talk about Central and South Jersey. First, we're going to take a look at the scene from the games this week, and we'll also check in with that ever-changing New Jersey top 10. Back here on the home show, I love that picture of Ocean City with the Ferris wheel in the background. That was cool. We're welcoming in now, of course, Josh Friedman from CourierPostOnline.com and from MyCentralJersey.com, Greg Tafaro, to go over all of the big games happening in South and Central Jersey from this past week, as well as a look ahead to what we got coming this week. We'll start with you, Josh, in South Jersey. More or less our unofficial official championship game down there is set up as well.
Yeah, our top four pod, we had two games this week. One was not what we hoped for, and one was everything we hoped for. On Friday night, it was Winslow and Holy Spirit in the first game. Holy Spirit, wire to wire, 34-0. Everything that could have gone right went right for Holy Spirit. Offensively, Patrick Smith continues his incredible season, 265 yards, 2 more touchdowns, up to almost 1,500 now in the season. Elijah Stewart had a couple touchdown receptions and 100 yards as well. Defensively, they put up 10 sacks. It was a domination from start to finish. Holy Spirit has proven all year they belong in that championship game, and they're going to be there. That was a good one. And then that was not what we hoped for. But then the 1 versus 2 matchup we've been waiting for all season, Lenape and Cherokee, lived up to the billing and then some. It was one of the greatest games I've ever watched as a high school reporter. Lenape goes up early thanks to a couple turnovers, goes up 14-0. Cherokee scores 3 straight touchdowns in the second half. Brandon Boyer had an 82-yard touchdown run, went for over 250 on the game, puts Cherokee up 28-21 mid-fourth quarter. Then Lenape goes on an 18-play drive over 6 minutes. You see it here. Brady Long finds his way into the end zone, ties the game up late, 28-28. We're going to overtime. And then, of course, Dylan Shank in overtime from Lenape. Lenape gets the ball first. They go backwards. Dylan Shank, 48-yard field goal to go ahead. Cherokee misses their attempt. It was an incredible game. Lenape goes off. Coach Woj, Coach Woj, we call him, called it the greatest feat in the history of Lenape football. Coming 1 day of practice to beat Cherokee. Just an incredible game. And now we get Lenape Holy Spirit next week, which I'll talk about down the road when I have to make it, when you're forcing me to make a prediction. So.
I know that's no easy task in a game like that. 48 yards, that's incredible. You don't see that too often at the high school level.
It could have been good from 60. He boomed it. We had some wind help too, but it was a thing of beauty to watch.
Amazing. A great game down there in South Jersey, and another good one as well in Central Jersey, Greg, with Somerville and Woodbridge.
Yeah, battle of previously undefeated, both state-ranked teams. Somerville came to Woodbridge on Friday night and had a 39-26 comeback victory. There were 4 lead changes and 2 ties in that game. Woodbridge, which pitched 3 shutouts this season, entered the contest not having surrendered a single point in its last 11 consecutive quarters. Woodbridge led 13-6 at halftime. Somerville scores 33 points after intermission. That matches the total number of points Woodbridge had allowed in its 5 previous games combined. Running back Cookie Desiderio pictured there, 4 touchdowns, 275 yards rushing to counter All-State running back Ollie Lee Jr. of Woodbridge, who rushed for 158 yards and 3 touchdowns. Interestingly for Somerville and head coach Dallas Whitaker, they're very aggressive on offense. 3 straight times over the first 3 quarters, they went for it on 4th and short inside their own territory, once at their own 34, again at their own 32. They came up short each time, but that illustrates just how much confidence Coach Whitaker has, not just in his defense, but in his offense, because Woodbridge was not able to convert points, unfortunately, for the Barons after making those big stops. Now, the big news this week after that game took place, Somerville learned that it had a coronavirus-related issue in its program. There's a domino effect of that. Not only does Somerville have to shut down, but Woodbridge has to shut down and quarantine for 2 weeks. Somerville was supposed to play Phillipsburg, which was going to be a huge, huge game. Phillipsburg now, we've learned, has moved its Thanksgiving Day rivalry game against Easton up 1 week. Those 2 teams will meet this weekend. Woodbridge was supposed to play previously state-ranked and previously unbeaten North Brunswick, which would have been a huge game in Middlesex County. But with Woodbridge sidelined, North Brunswick picked up Elizabeth.
Of course, that's unfortunately the storyline all season with these COVID issues popping up. But, of course, all these teams we mentioned, too, putting together great seasons, and they are all in the running, of course, for the Team of the Year award. We talked a lot about it last week, so if you missed last week's show, go back and check that out. But for more information on what we're doing in terms of the Team of the Year award, well, let's check out this video.
The 2020 high school football season here in New Jersey has been unlike any other. There won't be a formal playoff system to determine state champions at the end of the season. But that's where we come in. For the first time, the USA Today Network New Jersey will crown our statewide Teams of the Year in public school groups 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, as well as 1 top non-public school. We'll also crown Teams of the Year in leagues and conferences throughout the state. That means the Super Football Conference, Shore Conference, NJIC, Big Central Conference, and West Jersey Football League. Each Team of the Year will be honored with a one-of-a-kind trophy, all made possible by our presenting sponsor, RWJ Barnabas Health. Our writers will make Team of the Year selections with your help as well, as online reader polls coming out soon will be a key part of the selection process. Our mission here is simple. We want to acknowledge student athletes for their achievements during this challenging year. Good luck to all of our teams.
And, of course, be on the lookout for how you can get involved in the Team of the Year selection. All right, moving along on the show for our interview segment, we were thrilled to welcome in the head coach of the Sayreville Bombers, Chris Beagan, and his wife, Laurie. For those of you unfamiliar with the Beagan story, Chris received a kidney transplant from his wife, Laurie, in February of 2019. As an active member of the national Facebook group Friday Night Wives, Laurie was able to counsel the spouse of a football coach in Tennessee when her husband was also in need of a kidney transplant. Myself and Greg Tafaro spoke with the Beagans last night. Let's check out that interview. Chris and Laurie, thanks so much for joining us on the show. We're so excited to talk to you both. Chris, let's begin with you. Of course, the spouses of high school football coaches around the country, they make a lot of sacrifices. I don't know how many are willing to give up a kidney like your wife did for you. Tell us why you needed the transplant and what it was like for your wife to make this selfless act to essentially save your life.
Yeah, sure. Well, thank you for having us. I have a autoimmune disease that affects the kidney and basically prohibits it from filtering properly. So my waste and you know, what can I say? From the moment I've met my wife, she's always been an unselfish person, always looking out for others and, you know, trying to do things to help other people out. So you never know with this kind of thing, whether or not someone's going to be a match. But it didn't really surprise me, believe it or not, that she jumped at the opportunity to help me or anyone for that matter.
And Laurie, as an active member of the Facebook group Friday Night Wives, you were able to counsel the spouse of a football coach in another state when the couple faced a similar health challenge. What is Friday Night Wives, and how did the group help connect you with that couple?
Hi, Greg. Friday Night Wives is a group started by Jordan Harrell, who is a football coach's wife in Texas. She started the group in about 2017. And it's a group of football soccer, basketball, coaches' wives from all over the country. And it's a kind of a support group where we can celebrate the great things about being a coach's wife, marriages, births, state championships, and also the hardships, losing games, losing players, and going through major health crises. And a woman named Tasha Blaylock from Hernando, Mississippi, posted about 2 years ago saying that her husband was going through home dialysis and that he needed a kidney transplant. And there were 4 unsuccessful matches. People had volunteered, but there were unsuccessful matches. And fortunately, between the newspaper articles and they put a billboard on the highway, and her husband, Scott, who also suffers from IgA nephropathy like Chris, was able to get a transplant this January at Vanderbilt Hospital in Nashville. And he's doing great. So her and I have kept in contact through all of it, through the testing and the actual transplants and the recovery. And it's nice to have that kind of support.
And Chris, too, as a transplant recipient, what has it been like coaching this season, of course, amid a pandemic? What has it been like for you on the sidelines?
Yeah, I get a lot of people asking me how I feel, and it really has been more about keeping our players safe and following all the safety protocols and just discussing with them. Haven't really thought much about my condition. My doctor gave me a great line because we did contact him right before, and he basically said to me, "Hey, look, you just got a new kidney. We do these surgeries and we do these types of procedures so that you can live your life, not to keep you boxed up at home." So, I felt comfortable going out. Obviously, I follow, the safety protocols, but really haven't worried too much about it. Just trying to be, safe.
And Laurie, you've been a coach and an educator and the spouse of a coach for a long time. You have 2 children. God bless you. What advice would you give to spouses of coaches, particularly new coaches, wives?
The first thing I would say is be patient, because at times it's so difficult, especially when your kids are little. But time goes so fast, and before you know it, they're off to college, and then it's just you and your coach. So also find your tribe, because fortunately, because of social media, a lot of coaches today have groups where they can, coaches' wives can meet and discuss the problems and, challenges that we face. But I didn't have that when I was younger, and he was coaching football and wrestling, and the kids were little, and it was difficult. I was lucky to have a mentor coach's wife in Debbie Najar, and she handled everything with such grace. And she was kind of the model for all of us young coaches' wives at the time to aspire to. But now with social media and
like the Friday Wives group.
The Friday Night Wives group, people are able to kind of have each other for support.
Well, it's an absolutely amazing story, and I appreciate you guys coming on the show to share it with us, and continued health and success.
Thank you so much, guys.
Brian.
Best wishes to you for a happy and healthy holiday season, guys.
Same to
Thanks,
you.
Greg. To you too.
Our thanks to Chris and Laurie Beagan for stopping by the show last night and sharing their incredible story with us. Of course, our colleague Greg Tafaro has written about their story, so head over to mycentraljersey.com to read more about the Beagans and their incredible story. We have predictions coming up just around the corner, but before we get to that, let's make a stop in Ramsey for our 100-yard walk.
Now it's time for our 100-yard walk here in Ramsey on the Red Zone. I'm joined by the Rams star twins, Blake and Brian Kramer. Guys, it's great to see you. How are you?
Good, how are you?
Boy, y'all really do look alike.
Yeah.
So, Blake, start with you. How'd you become a football player?
I started off in flag football, and I worked all the way up from high school, and yeah.
Did you love it right away?
Yeah, definitely.
And Brian, how'd you become a football player?
Same exact way. My dad threw me into flag football, and I kind of rode it up all the way to high school.
Y'all must have played against each other and your brothers and everybody in the backyard, right?
Yeah.
And physically violent at those games.
Yeah, pretty violent. Got pretty intense.
How much fun has it been being able to play high school football with brothers?
It's definitely an experience. It's like we got chemistry on and off the field, so we're just kind of taking it to them.
Blake, is it fun?
Yeah, it's fun. Yeah, we do a lot together, so it's normal.
All right, you ready for the twin questions?
Yes.
All right, which one is better looking?
Me.
All right. Which one's a better football player?
Me.
Which one's smarter?
Me. No, me.
Favorite car?
Hellcat SRT.
Favorite car?
Audi i8.
Favorite thing about being a twin?
Competitiveness.
Worst thing about being a twin?
He gets annoying.
That happened. This has been Darren Cooper on the Red Zone, 100-yard walk in Ramsey. Back to you, Ryan.
That was a fun one. Welcome back to the Red Zone Home Show. Of course, for the full 100-yard video, head up to northjersey.com. Back here on the show, it's time for our Pick Six segment. We'll go through all of the big games happening this week around the state. Darren, before we get to your pick, that was a pretty cool 100-yard segment. What was it like talking to the Twins?
You want to know the funny thing? So I get there just in time for them to tell me that their game with Mawa is canceled. Okay, 48 hours later, the game is back on. They beat Mawa 35-7. Ramsey 7-0. Both of those Twins are going to Stevens Tech. Real smart guys, good football players.
A lot of fun with that segment for sure. And now let's get into our predictions, too, because we have another big game coming up in North Jersey, Darren, with Ramapo and Wayne Hills.
Yeah, interestingly enough, both teams are coming off a loss. Ramapo took on Group 1, Willingboro, Mr. Josh, and they were outstanding. They beat Ramapo 20-19, and Wayne Hills got beat by Northern Highlands 24-14. But this is one of those throw the records out the windows, guys. Talked about this game in the past because it was scheduled earlier. NFL guys have played in this game. They both bring out the best in each other. They've split the last 6 meetings. I'm going to give a slight vote to Ramapo as my pick in a close one.
And here at the Shore, Steve Falk, a game maybe a little bit overshadowed by 1 versus 2, but still a very good one on tap. We have Rumson, Fairhaven, and Freehold.
First, Darren, the kicker from Don Bosco Prep is my hero of the week. Josh, we need a stadium in the Shore with a Ferris wheel in the background, and also need a stadium by the ocean. Now on to Freehold and Rumson. This is actually a very interesting football game that's going to be overshadowed by the Wall Donovan Catholic game. Both of these teams have had very good seasons. Freehold has a boatload of speed, led by quarterback Shaquem Schuler, who has rushed for over 1,000 yards and thrown for over 1,000 yards. Poor man's version of former Freehold star Ashante Worthy from 3 years ago. Rumson Fairhaven is a no-frills approach. I would assume they're going to invoke their game plan they used against Somerville 2 years ago, Greg. They're going to line up in double tight. They're going to try to pound the ball, control the clock. I wouldn't be surprised if running back John Volker carried the ball 35, 40 times in this game. A lot of Freehold's players go both ways. Rumson's players all go one way. I think the Bulldogs will eventually wear Freehold down and win the game.
All right, Rumson Fairhaven, the pick in that one. So, okay, we had Twins on the 100 yards walk segment. Now we have brother versus brother in Central Jersey, Greg. Scotch Plains Fanwood against JFK.
That's a great segue, Ryan. We're going to call it Sibling Rivalry Week in the Big Central Football Conference. Austin Holman, the head coach at Scotch Plains, goes up against Tarig Holman, his brother, the head coach at JFK, for the first time ever as head coaches. 2 stars in this game. Sean Martin from Scotch Plains Fanwood, who's one of the best players in the state, and Isaiah Cherry for JF Kennedy, a dynamic playmaker on both sides of the ball and actually a dynamic return specialist. My colleague Andy Menlowitz, who's writing a feature story about this matchup, spoke with the Holman's father. His name is Lansing. He's calling it the Brother Bowl. He's actually purchased a championship belt. And he'll be attending the game. He's going to spend time on the sideline for each team. JF Kennedy's coming off a huge upset, 27-26 overtime win against border rival, crosstown rival Colonia. A young lady named Janiah Davis started at right guard in that game for Kennedy. Scotch Plains Fanwood, though, will edge JFK in this sibling rivalry matchup.
I like Dad playing it right down the middle there, not playing favorites in this game. Very diplomatic of him. We'll keep an eye on that game as well. And down in South Jersey, Josh, our official championship game we talked about earlier, Lenape and Holy Spirit. I know a tough one for you to have to try to pick.
Yeah, I've been agonizing over this one. I almost texted you to change my pick here. Truth be told, everything in my head tells me I should be picking Holy Spirit. Normal rest. Patrick Smith, I think he's going to make a great case for possibly the state player of the year. Defense is playing lights out. The line's playing lights out. Everything is going right now for Holy Spirit. They've been fantastic this year, hands down. And yet my gut tells me Lenape, because everything's gone wrong and they're still here. Somehow they beat Cherokee on one day of practice on Sunday. They had very few days to practice for this game, prepare for this game. They hadn't even gone through Holy Spirit's defense up until last night, so they're behind. Yet somehow, I can't pick against the team. In a way, Lenape's the underdog. A lot of people are going to view Holy Spirit, that small non-public, as the underdog. But Lenape, with all they've gone through, all they've had to persevere, 2 COVID shutdowns, wondering if they're going to get in this pod, wondering if they're going to get in this game. And again, my head tells me Holy Spirit, my heart tells me Lenape. So I'm leaning Lenape as my pick. Although who knows, I might have to change that by Friday. But right now it's Lenape.
As of right now, we'll check in a couple hours and see if it changed. We'll keep an eye on that one in South Jersey. And then back up to Darren, that Beckton team that we mentioned, 0 points allowed this year, taking on Waldwick Midland Park.
Right, guys. It's the 5th annual NJIC championship game between Waldwick Midland Park, that's a co-op football program, and Beckton. We talked about Beckton before. They're 5-0. They have not allowed a point. Some lousy sports writers calling them the killer B defense. See the B on the helmets. But they'll have their hands full, I think, with Waldwick Midland Park. Got an outstanding running back in Rashawn Markman, another one in Sean Grigsby. They run the wing T, some deception stuff. But, guys, at this point, you kind of look at some of the games that teams have played. Cresskill beat Waldwick Midland Park, and Beckton beat Cresskill 30-0. So my pick is the Beckton Wildcats should win the NJIC title. The bigger story will be, do they give up a point?
Well, what's your prediction on that? Do they?
My goodness, Ryan. Jeez. Like that. You know what? I actually think they will shut them out. I do. I think they will.
All right. There you go. A double prediction there, Darren. I put you on the spot with that one. Way to think on your toes. Finally, our last game to pick, the unofficial Shore Conference Championship. Number 1, Wall versus number 2, Donovan Catholic.
First of all, Darren, if Beckton goes through a whole season without giving up a point, that's a tremendous accomplishment, tremendous story. I mean, it's almost unheard of. Now on to this game. I really hate having to pick this game right now because I can go back and forth on this game 100 times between now and Friday. There's no secrets here. These two coaching staffs know each other very well. The Donovan Catholic head coach Dan Curcione and Donovan Catholic offensive coordinator Chip LaBarca Jr. were at Wall in 2016 when Wall won a sectional championship. Curcione was the head coach. LaBarca was the offensive coordinator. The offensive system that Wall is running is the same as Donovan Catholic is running. So no secrets. They both know each other. If Wall plays the way they did against Mater Dei Prep last Friday night, it's probably lights out because that was as close to a perfect football game as I've ever seen a high school football team play. That's a big if, though, if a team can play a almost perfect game 2 weeks in a row. The matchup to watch here will probably be Jayon Farrar, wide receiver for Donovan Catholic, being covered by Casey Larkin of Wall. Larkin will have his hands full, but I think he's up to the challenge, and I think Wall will eke out a very close game. And that will probably make Donovan Catholic happy because if they win, I'm sure they'll let me hear about it at the end of the game.
We will be there for that one. That will be our Asbury Park Press game of the week. So, of course, for all the action around the state, stick with NorthJersey.com, MyCentralJersey.com, CourierPostOnline.com, and APP.com. That's going to do it for our show. Thanks to Darren, Greg, Josh, and Steve. Thanks to the Kramer brothers. Thanks to Laurie and Chris from Sayreville for stopping by the show last night as well. And thank you for watching the Red Zone Home Show. I'm Ryan Ross. Stay safe out there, and we'll see you next time.